Buried deep within the crumbling tablets of ancient Sumer lies a warning. Cryptic, timeless, and all but forgotten. It speaks not of gods descending from celestial heavens, but of beings who emerged from the darkness beneath the earth, from deep, unknowable places where time itself folds into memory. These were not mythic deities, but emissaries of science and will, sent forth from a dying world, whispered through the ages as Nibiru. Known to the Sumerians as the Wandering Star, Nibiru was said to follow a long elliptical path, returning to Earth in great cosmic cycles, each visit marking cataclysm, collapse, and rebirth. Etched in cuneiform by trembling hands, the ancients warned of a red star that brings not only fire and flood, but dangerous knowledge, the kind that changes everything. For thousands of years, this prophecy was hidden in temples, mystery schools, and forbidden texts. But today, in an age where modern science begins to glimpse what the ancients already knew, the question returns: what happens when Nibiru comes again? If you're ready to follow this journey into forgotten truths and forbidden timelines, subscribe now. And if you're one of the few who feels something waking up, type the number 7 in the comments below. Let's see who's listening. As the ancient records suggest, the return of Nibiru was never just a sign. It was a symptom. The planet itself, colossal and cloaked in mystery, was slowly dying. Its once golden skies, rich with atmospheric protection, had thinned into a fragile veil, barely shielding its inhabitants from the relentless assault of cosmic radiation. The stars above, once distant companions, now scorched the surface with unfiltered light. Famine, genetic instability, and environmental collapse threatened to unravel a civilization older than time itself. The Anunnaki, those who once mastered energy, life, and the mechanics of the cosmos, found themselves cornered by extinction. In the Great Hall of Council, beneath the domed chambers of Nibiru's inner sanctum, the elder gods gathered. Enlil, militant and unyielding, demanded warlike efficiency. Enki, the architect and thinker, offered something more delicate: salvation through science. It was he who confirmed the theory: only one element could restore balance to Nibiru's atmosphere: gold, suspended as particulate to shield their world. But gold was scarce on their dying planet. Their scans turned outward, into the void, into the past, and found a promising target: a blue planet, young and teeming with untapped resources. Earth, untouched, unclaimed, and ignorant of what was to come. It was not a war they would bring, but an extraction. Yet the decision was not merely logistical, it was philosophical, spiritual. To intervene was to alter a world not their own. Still, the choice was made. Earth would become the cradle of their last hope. Beneath this decision lay a deeper tension, an ancient disagreement between brothers. Enlil saw Earth as a mine. Enki, however, saw something else: a canvas, a possibility, perhaps even a reflection of something lost on Nibiru long ago. As preparations began, ships were readied, coordinates charted, and the legacy of the Anunnaki poised to be written not in the skies of their own world, but in the soil, oceans, and genes of another. What they did not foresee was that the journey to save Nibiru would spark the birth of something far more dangerous than extinction: memory. Amid the urgency of Nibiru's collapse, as plans were hastily drawn and destinies reshaped, a singular voice rose in calm defiance. Enki, the firstborn of Anu, the geneticist, the keeper of deep knowledge. Where others saw Earth as a means to an end, Enki saw a mystery wrapped in potential. While the council debated logistics and projections, he stepped forward with quiet resolve and volunteered to lead the mission. Not for glory, not for control, but for something he could not name: a pull, ancient and visceral, that whispered to him from the depths of Earth's magnetic song. Enlil, his half-brother and rival in vision, opposed the move with fiery conviction. To him, Earth was raw, unpredictable, and unworthy of direct contact. "Send machines, send clones," Enlil urged. "Do not soil divine essence with alien dirt." But Anu, ruler of Nibiru, sensed something deeper stirring beneath the surface of his son's rivalry. In Enki's eyes burned curiosity, compassion, and a trace of rebellion. Against Enlil's protests, Anu gave his blessing. The mission would proceed under Enki's guidance. Yet what the council failed to see was that Enki carried with him more than science. He bore the weight of forgotten histories, the fragments of dreams too dangerous to be spoken aloud. He remembered legends of Earth from long-lost archives, rumors that their kind had been here before, in cycles now erased. He remembered symbols carved into the walls of secret chambers, depicting beings with eyes like theirs and hands outstretched toward stars. And above all, he carried a silence, a loneliness not born of isolation, but of awareness. Enki understood that what awaited them on Earth was not just gold, but reflection, a mirror, a test, one that might reveal more about themselves than they were prepared to face. As the expedition was assembled, Enki personally oversaw the selection of crew, tools, and ancient me tablets, encodings of cosmic law, frequency, mathematics, and biological design. To the others, they were instruments. To Enki, they were keys. He packed them with care, not as cargo, but as sacred seeds. While others laughed and drank in anticipation of conquest, Enki stood alone in the observation chamber, watching Earth grow larger on the screen, listening to its rhythms. He could feel it, something ancient was waking as they approached. Thus, the journey began, not only toward another world, but toward a fracture in the divine family itself. Enki's choice would become the first crack in a cosmic order that had held for eons. And though no war had yet been declared, the tension between two visions, one of dominance, the other of reverence, had already planted the seeds of rebellion. Earth would become their field of labor, but also their stage of reckoning. And as Enki descended toward the blue world below, he whispered a thought no other dared to voice. What if this world is not ours to reshape, but ours to remember? The great vessel of the Anunnaki, silent, immense, and gliding like a shadow across the stars, departed Nibiru's orbit with the weight of an empire's hope pressing against its hull. Beyond the gravitational pull of their dying world, the ship entered the cold theater of deep space, navigating past asteroid belts shimmering with ancient debris and through the void where solar winds whispered secrets only machines could translate. Inside the command chamber, Enki remained still. The crew around him operated with precision, eyes locked on instruments and trajectories, but his gaze drifted toward the forward viewport, toward the distant glimmer of Earth growing brighter with each passing day. There was something about that world, something that refused to remain foreign in his mind. Not just curiosity, but déjà vu. As though in some forgotten epoch, long before records and remembrance, a part of him had touched that soil, breathed that air, or perhaps even belonged there. The closer they came, the stronger the sensation grew. Not fear, not excitement, but a strange melancholy, as if approaching a home one can no longer name. Enki began to withdraw from the others, retreating into his personal quarters where he reviewed fragmented archives, banned texts, encoded glyphs, symbolic dreams stored within neural maps. Images emerged, spirals, twin serpents, human-like figures reaching skyward, and a sphere divided by 4 rivers. These weren't visions of conquest, they were memories, or echoes of them. Could it be that Earth was not a discovery but a return? And if so, return to what? A forgotten alliance? A failed experiment, or a warning long buried beneath layers of protocol and pride? As the ship passed through the heliosheath, the boundary between solar influence and the deep unknown, the magnetic fields twisted and pulsed against the ship's shielding. Crew members reported interference, subtle hallucinations, and fragmented dreams. Enki took note, but said nothing. He knew the mind was sensitive to truth when it floated too close to forgotten frequencies. That was why he had brought the me tablets, those crystalline blueprints of reality passed down since before even Nibiru had a name. If Earth truly held some ancient resonance, the ME would respond. They always did in the presence of primordial order or ancient transgression. And then, without warning, the ship broke through the veil of the inner solar system. Earth, blue, breathing, innocent, filled the viewport like a rising dream. The crew applauded. Enki did not. He stood, eyes narrowed, as if bracing for a conversation not yet begun. Somewhere in the deepest chambers of his being, a voice stirred, not in words, but in feeling. A call, familiar, longing, ancient. As if the planet itself had been waiting, not for gods, not for miners, but for him. The ship descended with solemn grace, its hull humming softly as it pierced the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere, disturbing nothing but the silence of a planet untouched by civilization. It came not with thunder or flame, but like a falling star that knew exactly where to land. Their destination was precise. A coastal cradle where land kissed sea, where ancient rivers fed into an inland gulf, still and shimmering beneath a violet dawn. This was no random selection. The coordinates had emerged during Enki's meditations, as if whispered through gravitational patterns, encoded into the very structure of space-time. As the ramp extended and the metallic scent of the ship gave way to the wild breath of Earth, Enki stepped forward alone. Behind him, the crew waited in reverent stillness. He, the first to walk this world, descended not as a conqueror, but as a seeker. His foot touched soil, warm, rich, and electric beneath the surface. Then he approached the water. Kneeling slowly as if greeting an old friend, Enki extended his hand into the cool, glass-like shallows. The moment his skin met the water, the world shifted. A ripple echoed outward in slow motion. Yet it wasn't merely physical. Something unseen responded. A pulse, a recognition. The biosymbolic pattern etched into his palm, an ancient genetic sigil dormant since birth, flared to life in soft bioluminescent gold. The light moved like breath across his hand, and in that instant, Enki knew. He was not the first to arrive here, only the first to return in this form. Beneath the waves, deeper than sonar could reach, an ancient presence stirred. Not malevolent, not welcoming, simply aware. The sensation was not telepathic but primal, like an instinct remembered only in dreams. This wasn't just water, it was memory, consciousness suspended in liquid form. The Abzu, long considered a mythological term for underground waters, was real, and it was alive. It felt Enki's touch, recognized his frequency, and responded not with words but with a subtle opening, an invitation, or perhaps a test. Enki rose, stunned by the encounter. Around him, the natural world remained still. Birds did not sing, winds did not stir. It was as if the earth itself had paused, observing, measuring. He turned slowly, eyes scanning the horizon. This was no longer a mission of resource extraction. Something more sacred was at play. This place, this meeting point between sea and land, it was chosen not by the council, not by science, but by the earth itself. And it had waited not for machines or rulers, but for him. Not because of who he was, but because of what he might remember. The water withdrew gently from the shoreline, as if exhaling. And for the first time since Nibiru, Enki whispered, not to the crew, not to the gods, but to the earth, I hear you. In the wake of that first sacred contact with Earth, Enki turned his gaze inland, where the land opened itself like a scroll waiting to be read. Here, where the sea receded with reverence and the winds carried no resistance, he established the first outpost of the gods, Eridu. It was not a fortress nor a temple, but something in between, both a beacon and a threshold. Enki named it carefully, drawing the syllables not from language, but from resonance, as though the land itself whispered the name to him. Eridu, the place of descent. It would become the nexus where divine intention met terrestrial destiny. Under his guidance, the Anunnaki began constructing structures that mirrored the geometry of Nibiru, precise, sacred, harmonized with planetary energies. Towers rose from the clay, instruments were embedded into bedrock, and within days, the mission shifted from observation to extraction. The scans confirmed it. Beneath the crust of this young planet, in a region known today as Southern Africa, lay vast concentrations of monoatomic gold, silent, slumbering veins of luminous dust hidden within the rock. But these resources were not easily taken. They were buried deep beneath what Enki recognized as the Abzu, an ancient aquifer of energetic water coursing through subterranean channels. It pulsed with the same awareness he had felt in the Gulf, a web of planetary memory too vast for even the Anunnaki to fully comprehend. And still, the Council demanded results. As the work began, the tone of the expedition shifted. What had started as a scientific salvation became a labor camp. The Anunnaki, once proud navigators of stars and time, now found themselves wielding picks and drills, battling heat, pressure, and fatigue. The air was heavy with discontent. Their voices, once filled with awe at this planet's vibrancy, turned bitter and hollow. Whispers of rebellion echoed through the underground corridors. They were not built for this kind of toil, not on a planet that seemed to resist every extraction, as though the Earth herself mourned each wound. Enki observed in silence, conflicted. He had led them here not just to survive, but to evolve. Yet he watched as divine beings were reduced to miners and sacred soil to commodity. The Abzu, once whispering to him with curiosity, now withdrew into silence, as if disappointed. In private, Enki returned nightly to the water's edge, placing his hand into the shallows, hoping for another sign, another pulse of understanding. none came. But he could feel something shifting, beneath the soil, beneath their intentions. A pressure, not physical, but metaphysical. This land would not surrender its secrets without consequence. Eridu had become the first city, yes, but not a city of triumph. It was a city of warning. And though the other gods could not see it, Enki knew. Something ancient had been awakened, not just beneath their feet, but within themselves. The true cost of this mission had not yet revealed itself, but it would. That night, when the fires of the work camps had dimmed and the murmur of the Anunnaki fell into uneasy silence, Enki remained awake. Alone beneath a canopy of unfamiliar constellations, he sat on a flat stone at the edge of the Abzu. The waters now still and quiet, as though holding their breath. The sky above was rich with stars he did not know, yet they stirred a memory too deep to surface. He did not speak, but listened. Not with ears, but with something older, something buried in his essence. The earth, though young, pulsed with a rhythm, a slow, planetary heartbeat. And within that pulse was a voice, not audible, not linguistic, but intuitive. It whispered not what to do, but what to remember. With hands still stained from mineral dust and ancient soil, Enki drew forth a small clay tablet from his satchel. He did not consult instruments or commands from Nibiru. Instead, guided by instinct, he began to inscribe. Symbols, not of instruction, but of resonance. Spirals, crosses, waves intersecting lines. They were not new creations, but reconstructions of something long lost. Each mark seemed to unlock a door within him, as if memory itself was buried in clay, waiting to be called back. These signs would one day evolve into the first written language, proto-cuneiform. But for now, they were something more sacred, a tether between what was and what might be again. Enki did not write for the gods, nor for the mission. He wrote as if afraid that if he did not, the memory would slip away forever. It was not knowledge he was recording, it was remembrance. Not of earth, but of somewhere deeper, a place beneath places. A realm of pattern and intelligence where sound became shape and thought became stone. He had felt it in the waters, he had seen it in dreams. Something hidden, beneath the earth, beneath the mission, beneath even Nibiru's long history, was reaching upward through him, asking only to be remembered. And as he pressed the final glyph into the clay, a wind stirred. Not from the sea, not from the camp, but from behind him, cold and ancient, moving as if it carried time itself. The flame of his nearby torch flickered, casting long shadows that didn't quite match their source. In that moment, Enki felt it again. Presence, watching, waiting, not hostile, not friendly, simply aware. A whisper emerged, not through air, but inside his mind. Not a word, but a question. Enki looked down at his tablet, and then up at the stars, and answered it silently, not with voice, but with ink and earth. He pressed the tablet into a stone recess near the water's edge, sealing it as if preserving a secret for a world yet unborn. And somewhere, deep within the crust of the planet, the Abzu stirred, very faintly, as if nodding. As night deepened, and the winds carried the scent of mineral-rich dust across the barren plains surrounding Eridu, Enki remained still beneath the open sky, his eyes fixed on a faint, pulsing glow hovering just above the horizon. It was not a star, nor a planet known to Earth's embryonic heavens. It shimmered with a dull crimson hue, flickering at intervals like a heartbeat slowed by distance. He recognized it instantly. Nibiru, the wandering home he had left behind, was once again drawing near, completing its long, elliptical pilgrimage through the dark corridors of the solar system. Its return was not expected so soon, and yet there it was, watching, waiting, not as sanctuary, but as witness. Enki felt a chill, not from the air, but from the realization that this mission, once thought scientific, now stood at the edge of something fated. He had changed since leaving Nibiru. Earth had stirred something ancient in him, and that change, he sensed, would not be welcomed when the red star passed close enough for the others to see what he had done. That night, as he drifted into uneasy sleep within his stone shelter, Enki was taken by a dream unlike any he had known. There were no visions of planets or gods. Instead, he found himself deep beneath the earth, far below the mines and the water tables, in a chamber not made but formed, as if the earth had grown it intentionally. The walls pulsed with a dim blue bioluminescence, and in the center stood a singular structure, a black obelisk, humming with a frequency that resonated in his bones. As he approached, the air thickened, and then it spoke. Not with a mouth, nor with sound, but with presence. It was a voice older than Nibiru, older than the stars themselves. It said nothing of gold or science or duty. It offered only one sentence, repeated thrice in slow, resonant tones. If you awaken what sleeps beneath, they will turn against you. Enki awoke with his heart pounding, the fire beside him extinguished, though the air was still. The red light of Nibiru still blinked in the sky like an eye that refused to close. He understood now. Earth was not just a resource. It was a container of memory, of intelligence, perhaps even of judgment. To awaken it was to break a pact unspoken, to challenge the hierarchy of gods and destiny. Yet as he looked once more toward the water, toward the land, and toward the clay tablet he had buried in secret, he knew his course was set. He had heard Earth's call, and once heard, it could not be silenced, even if it meant exile, even if it meant war. For Enki now understood the truth behind the mission. He had not come to harvest a world. He had come to witness its rebirth. Enki awoke before dawn, his thoughts tangled between vision and reality, heart heavy with foreboding. The memory of the dream, the chamber, the obelisk, the warning, lingered like smoke that would not lift. The air was still, unnaturally so, and the sky above Eridu bore no sound but the faint rustle of wind moving across the low hills and the soft lap of water against the shore. He sat upright, eyes scanning the horizon, yet it was not the sky that spoke to him, it was the deep. From somewhere far beneath the surface, from the womb of the earth itself, came a sound. Not thunder, not tremor, a word, one word, ancient, clear, alive. It rose from the waters of the Abzu like a memory breaking through time. Lulu. Enki froze. The name echoed not only in his ears but in his bones, as if it had always been there, waiting to be heard again. He knew, without question, what it meant. Life. Not born of evolution, but of intention. A creation soon to come. Not just of flesh and blood, but of rebellion, curiosity, and consequence. And with it, the long unraveling of everything the gods once believed was in their control had quietly begun. And so the first step was taken, not by a god demanding worship, but by a being who chose to listen. Enki had touched something ancient, something alive, and in return the earth had spoken a single word. Lulu, a name, a beginning, a destiny yet to unfold. But with creation comes consequence, and with memory comes revolt. What sleeps beneath the surface of this planet is not just gold, not just energy, but a story the gods once buried and feared would never be told. In Episode 2, Abzu, the Deep Below, we will descend into the waters beneath Eridu, where life begins, secrets stir, and something once sealed begins to awaken. If you feel the call, subscribe. And don't forget to leave the number 7 in the comments if you're ready to remember what the world tried to forget.